Mr. Speaker, during the first 7 months of the last financial year, I was Minister for Health. And so, while my colleague and friend, the present Minister for Health, will of course cover this period, it would be amiss of me not to highlight one or two of the significant developments during that time. To my mind, the one most worthy of mention was the opening of the chemotherapy suite, which counted on the significant support of Margaret Ayling in memory of her late husband Leslie, known to many in this chamber. Also of note were the introduction of a full acupuncture service by chartered physiotherapists and the extensive preparatory work for the opening of both Bella Vista and Hillsides at the former Royal Naval Hospital site, which my colleague has now very successfully opened. Above all, I would like to thank the staff and management of the GHA and DRS who worked with me at the time for the support and loyalty they gave me during my 5 and 2 years respectively as the Minister, and for their dedication and professionalism. I wish them and the new Minister every success in the future. Mr. Speaker, in that reshuffle, I retained responsibility for public health. By promoting public health and health awareness, we aim not only to improve people's health, but as a result, reduce the cost of healthcare provision for conditions that can be prevented or improved. In 2014, I announced the second Health and Lifestyle Survey to take place in 2015. This was successfully carried out by the Public Health Department in 2015 and published last year. The report contained a wealth of information about the health and lifestyle of the Gibraltar adult population, including some sobering revelations for our society. The levels of obesity remain high. 3 out of 5 adults in Gibraltar are overweight or obese. Smoking levels are high, higher than in the countries chosen for comparison. The good news was that alcohol consumption is generally low at all ages, and Gibraltar people have a generally healthy attitude towards sunbathing behavior and cancer risks. Key events in health promotion have included participation in awareness campaigns for World Mental Health Day, stroke and stroke prevention, World Diabetes Day, World AIDS Day, support for Childline, World Cancer Day, and No Smoking Day. The Public Health Department teamed up with GHA professionals to present a 5-week teaching program on sexual health for the older Bayside students, and it's planned to extend the program to Westside School. The department teamed up with the care agency and the police to deliver a series of presentations on binge drinking, alcohol awareness and addiction at Westside and Bayside, and with the college to discuss the delivery of sessions on personal health and well-being. There's been collaborative working with the Breathe Easy Society, Clubhouse, the Gibraltar Alzheimer's and Dementia Society, and the Environmental Agency, among others. The Public Health Department, soon to be rebranded as Public Health Gibraltar, has published numerous articles and video clips and is working with the Alameda Wildlife Conservation Park to discuss promotion of a reduction in the consumption of meat on both health and sustainability grounds. A new health improvement strategy will be launched by the end of this year for the next 3 years, commencing next January. It will continue to build on the priority areas identified previously, including healthy eating, reducing the harm from tobacco, exercise, preventing, detecting and reducing the burdens from diabetes, improving sexual health, promoting mental health and well-being. In addition, the new strategy will aim to make progress on 2 key manifesto commitments of the government: lifestyle improvement and the health MOT program, and the self-care approach, encouraging all citizens to take control of their health and develop self-care awareness. According to the World Health Organization, childhood obesity is one of the most serious public health challenges of the 21st century. The Faculty of Public Health warns that unless these trends are halted, being obese substantially increases the chances of serious medical problems. The Public Health Department analyzed data from the heights and weights of reception year children in Gibraltar over the years 2011 to 2014 and found that nearly 1/3 of children was overweight. Over the 3 years, the pooled prevalence of overweight and obese children was around 26%, and there are more overweight boys than girls in all 3 years. To tackle this emerging and serious problem of childhood obesity, the Public Health Department has been participating in a new initiative aimed at developing joined-up strategies through a multidisciplinary group, the Children Healthy and Active Multi-Agency Panel, or CHAMP, led by a consultant pediatrician. The group has a wide participation across agencies and departments, including the GHA, Education, Social Services, Sports and Leisure, and Youth Services. The group will collaborate to produce a childhood obesity prevention strategy and will be making recommendations. It's not intended to preempt these, but one recommendation that has been consistently made in recent years is likely to be raised again, that of reforming school tuck shops. Mr. Speaker, I am still Minister for the Environment. As a passionate environmentalist as well, I will never feel that enough has been done for the environment. That, of course, protects me from possible criticism from members opposite, should they say that I have not done enough, as I will happily agree. These last 6 years have seen the Department of the Environment and Climate Change network regionally and internationally. We have proudly flown the flag of environmental governance and leadership, leaving our mark in the international arena. The continuing attendance of our scientists at UN and Mediterranean conferences of parties highlights the valuable contribution that Gibraltar makes and the recognition it receives at an international level. Mr. Speaker, I am proud to have co-chaired the second meeting of the Overseas Territories and Crown Dependencies Environmental Ministers' Council in Alderney in April. The meeting was a resounding success as we discussed areas of common interest and concern, most notably climate finance, the Paris Agreement, Brexit, environmental funding, and the role of Her Majesty's Government of the United Kingdom in environmental protection within the OTs and CDs where it has a role. We have set ourselves targets upon which we aim to deliver by our next meeting in 2018 in the Isle of Man. Mr. Speaker, the devastating effect of plastic on the marine environment is a subject which has come to the wide public attention in a big way only in the last few years. We all know how plastic kills whales, dolphins, turtles, and seabirds. It is likely also affecting human health as it insinuates itself within our food chain from plankton through shellfish and other mollusks to fish and hence to us. In this context, I must highlight our work with the Gibraltar Federation of Small Businesses and the Chamber of Commerce in banning plastic bags and the use of microbeads. It's very encouraging to see how businesses of all sizes, in responding to us and to the Nautilus project, are acknowledging the issue of plastic bag pollution and are voluntarily moving away from plastics. We will continue to work with them to develop this initiative further until we fully achieve our aims. Mr. Speaker, the green filter within the much improved electronic planning process is constantly proving to be an effective environmental screening tool. To highlight this point, departmental scientists and technicians have attended 26 tender boards, reviewed 650 building applications, and assessed a myriad of EIAs. The department, in conjunction with town planning and NGOs, is currently working on a guidance document to increase biodiversity in Gibraltar's urban environment. This document complements the policy of installing bird and bat boxes within the urban fabric and to encourage green and brown roofs. By introducing and progressing this filter, we are ensuring that development continues in Gibraltar in an environmentally considerate manner, with many projects improved environmentally before they enter the formal planning process, hence facilitating their acceptance. Moving on to waste management. Recycling figures show an increase of approximately 59% in recycling of mixed packaging waste, such as plastic and cans, and an increase of 120% in cardboard and paper, thanks to the support of the public and commercial outlets. Additional recycling bins for various waste streams will be provided in the very near future to further increase our recycling rates. Waste electronic recycling figures also continue to improve, with a further 68% increase during 2016. Mr. Speaker, overall, therefore, there has been an 88% increase in our recycling rates, which reflects also the success of the Eco Park. Gibraltar's waste cooking oil bins are also proving successful, with a 600% increase in collection rates. In the light of this, the government expects this year to achieve total self-sufficiency in the handling of waste. increasing local recycling and processing further, introducing new streams, including treatment of organic waste, significantly reducing the amount that needs to be exported, and so moving away from any form of incineration. Mr. Speaker, the work of the litter wardens continues, and as a result of the number of instances of fly tipping continues to reduce, as the use of time-lapse cameras helps us to tackle the problem. No dumping signs continue to be placed in hotspots to further remind the public that in Gibraltar, bins are only a short distance away. There are still a few significant problem areas where we'll be increasing our efforts. These matters form the main subject of discussion at the Litter Committee, but we must recognize that the solution to the problem of litter rests not with those who clear it, but with those who deposit it. Litter awareness will therefore be another strand of work for the coming year. Mr. Speaker, as the House is aware, we're also in the process of reviewing the provision of the main cleaning services in Gibraltar, something that we will do with the certitude of achieving a cleaner and tidier Gibraltar while ensuring that the interests of employees are protected. Mr. Speaker, as I stated recently, and was the subject of a recent government press release, in the light of the European Court of Justice judgment over our lack of sewage treatment, I can confirm once more that the government is fully committed to a sewage treatment plant and is about to enter detailed discussions with a view to achieving completion within the next 30 months. Mr. Speaker, collaboration with NGOs continues. Regular meetings take place involving both departmental officials and myself with the Gibraltar Ornithological and Natural History Society and the Environmental Safety Group, notably but not exclusively within the Brexit and the Environment Working Group. Meetings with the Nautilus Project, a more recently established group, have also begun, and I'm very pleased that all the Gibraltar environmental NGOs work together in many areas. This can only be good for our common aim of improving our environment. The Nature Conservancy Council continues to be consulted on all issues associated with the protection of Gibraltar's natural environment in line with my statutory obligations under the Nature Protection Act. Work continues within schools to promote environmental concepts, to encourage recycling and help urban wildlife, and this will be developed much further this coming year. The department has also embarked upon the Climact project with the University of Gibraltar and institutions in Portugal, France and Spain. This has resulted in environmental audits of 8 schools looking at energy use, water, transport, procurement and green areas. The project will continue into next school year when reports on each school will be delivered. Mr. Speaker, the government's geoportal continues to be well used. This interactive portal is being updated and now provides a great deal of electronic spatial data for Gibraltar. This was unheard of before we came into government. The Department of the Environment continues to spearhead the use of GIS. To date, more than 23,500 geoportal visits have been registered from 150 countries. The geoportal continues to support the local public and especially the private sector, which continues to be the largest user of our geographical information system assets. This year, the department has relied on GIS to support and develop innovative wildlife awareness raising programs such as the Pallid Swift cameras and the vulture tracking program, which have a great following and are placing Gibraltar in the spotlight of regional wildlife conservation efforts. Government remains fully committed to tackling the causes of climate change, and last November requested from Her Majesty's Government of the United Kingdom the extension of the Paris Agreement to Gibraltar. A reply is awaited. As part of its obligations under the Compact of Mayors, Gibraltar now provides a city-level inventory of greenhouse gas emissions. Gibraltar is one of only a handful of cities that have reported a fully complete inventory and has in fact been commended by the Carbon Disclosure Project for the completeness of its submission. Mr. Speaker, I am particularly delighted to inform this House that air quality in Gibraltar is the best since records began 12 years ago and probably the best for decades. We now have the lowest ever levels of PM10 particles, with the level even at the traditionally polluted Roja Road now below what we recorded as background levels at Bleak House when recording began. PM 2.5 particles are also at the lowest ever, Significantly, both are below the EU maximum permissible levels. Following a spike in 2014, when the fire at the moribund Waterport power station required the use of the just as moribund dirty diesel power stations in the South District, I'm happy to report a rapid drop in pollution levels of nitrogen dioxide since 2015. This downward trend continued in 2016. Concentrations for Roja Road were compliant, that is, below the EU required level for the first time in the 12-year history of air quality monitoring in Gibraltar. This is a tremendous achievement and proves the determination of the Environment and Climate Change Department, the GEA, and the Department of Transport in achieving better air quality. It also shows that the opposition has been totally unjustified every time it has tried to cast doubt as to our intentions and our ability to improve Gibraltar's air quality. Mr. Speaker, government is now setting itself an ambitious target to reduce emissions from manageable sources by 50% by 2030. This will be achieved in large part by the improvements derived from the new gas power station, but other measures to tackle building efficiency and transport emissions are also planned. Emissions from ships, for example, will be greatly reduced via the provision of shoreside power. Traffic will be tackled through the implementation of the STTPP, with the Department of the Environment assisting in particular with the development of electric vehicle infrastructure and improving electric and hybrid vehicle uptake. The department will also be working with the Ministry of Traffic and Infrastructure to roll out other measures in the plan, such as those which encourage walking and cycling throughout Gibraltar. Targets for building energy performance were made more robust at the start of this year. This effectively means that developers will be improving their standards in order to meet the minimum requirements, and this is being reflected in the increased number of applications going forward to DPC, which includes solar PV and solar thermal installations as a matter of course. Mr. Speaker, this is most important and not just another regulation. Energy efficiency reduces costs to developers, occupiers and taxpayers, reduces demand on power generation, and also benefits air quality. Mr. Speaker, London is a city challenged by air quality issues, and the Mayor of London's team is making huge efforts to improve this. I am happy to report that following the initial contact made by the Chief Minister, I have been in contact with Sadiq Khan, and that his environment team and mine will be pursuing contacts aimed at exchanging information whereby we will no doubt benefit from the experience of London in this field. The GHA solar project has now become a reality and will use energy from the sun to provide hot water throughout St. Bernard's Hospital. Initial estimates suggest it could result in fuel savings of approximately £50,000 a year. Other renewable energy projects will also come to fruition over the course of 2017 as the government remains committed to producing 20% of its energy from renewable sources. The Energy Savings Opportunity Scheme was launched towards the end of last year. This requires large organizations to conduct energy audits every 4 years, with a view to improving their performance over time. I urge all businesses to make use of the services now available from energy auditors to tackle unnecessary energy use within their organizations. Mr. Speaker, the last 12 months have seen a huge effort going into the new power station project, the associated new high-voltage distribution centres, infrastructure, the new high-voltage cabling network, and the adjacent LNG facility. The new generators are in place. Construction of the LNG tanks is progressing very well, and they will be arriving in Gibraltar in the coming months. Meanwhile, the GMIS ex-MOD power station is now only on standby mode, resulting in the great improvements to air quality that I have already reported. Improvements to the public lighting network continue, with replacement of street lights with LED or low-energy lanterns, reducing overall consumption. The program of installation of smart meters will continue to be rolled out. A total of 181.1 million units of electricity were billed last year, with the total amount collected being £25.65 million. The total installed generating capacity at the end of the year stood at 76.98 megawatts. The number of consumers rose by 622 to 20,427. Despite this, carbon dioxide emissions saw a slight decrease from 161,543 tonnes in 2015 to 161,358 tonnes in 2016, reflecting the impact of the use of energy-efficient devices and increased energy awareness. The authority continues to upgrade and expand the network and the SCADA control unit that is used to monitor the generation and main distribution system, thus providing a better and faster response when dealing with power outages. Training and development of technical staff continues this year with an emphasis on the new power station and its new technology. Work is also programmed to continue on the replacement of substations, which now will be replaced to increase the reliability and robustness of the high-voltage network. Mr. Speaker, I am pleased to report no power outages due to problems of generation, and only the case to report being one caused by the severing of a cable at a building site. How different the situation, Mr. Speaker, to that which we inherited in late 2011, when power cuts were the order of the day due to old and insufficient plants and when pollution was rife. In this context, I would also like to express my gratitude to the CEO of the GEA and his team for successfully managing the major challenge of commissioning our new gas-fired power station. Aquagib Limited has maintained and improved on its levels of service and performance indicators in respect to the provision of potable and seawater and sewerage services in Gibraltar. The company has continued to invest in capital projects as part of its asset replacement plan, aimed at maintaining and improving the water infrastructure. The current approved investment plan is set at £3.2 million over the 5-year period to 31st March 2020. During the last financial year, capital projects included replacement of potable and seawater mains and of customers' water meters, meter cupboards and meter manifolds, replacement of saltwater pumps at Moorish Castle, Moorish Castle Reservoir, North Mole, Gun Wharf and Haynes Cave, and replacement and installation of new programmable logic controllers for Governor's Cottage reverse osmosis plants. Projects planned for this year include continuing the replacement of pipes and equipment and replacement and installation of new membranes for Governor's Cottage plants A and B, which will increase their efficiency. In addition to the above, Aquagib will invest approximately £650,000 in this period in replacing the high-pressure pump, variable frequency drive, energy recovery system and booster pump on each of the 4 reverse osmosis plants at Governor's Cottage. This investment has a payback period of around 2 years and will result in an energy saving of approximately 30%, worth thousands of pounds per annum. Mr. Speaker, the Department of the Environment's coastal and groundwater monitoring programme continues to operate smoothly in conjunction with the Environmental Agency. Samples continue to be collected on a weekly and monthly basis from coastal monitoring sites, groundwater aquifers, and from all of our designated bathing areas. The department also collects and monitors marine sediment, phytoplankton, fish and shellfish tissue samples. In addition, this year the department has begun a marine litter monitoring program. Through the use of these data, both Gibraltar's coastal and groundwater aquifers are seen to be meeting the objectives set out in the Water Framework Rules and the Marine Strategy Regulations. I am pleased to confirm that our coastal waters are currently achieving good chemical and ecological status. Almost all of our beaches have seen an improvement in water quality under the classification of the Bathing Waters Directive. Eastern Beach, Little Bay and Camp Bay have gone from good in 2015 to excellent in 2016. Catlin Bay went from sufficient to good in 2016, and Sandy Bay went from poor to sufficient. Western Beach kept the same status of poor in both years. We all know the story of Western Beach well, and the government will not stop lobbying in Brussels beyond Brexit until Spain puts measures in place to resolve this problem. Mr. Speaker, until last year, our beaches were only under my remit from an environmental perspective, but after last year's cabinet reshuffle, beaches in their entirety, that is to say, as a public amenity, now fall under my responsibility. I am most grateful to my friend and colleague, the Honourable Samantha Sacramento, for her work and dedication in this area and her time there. Similarly, I would like to thank the former head of the department, Nicky Guerrero, for his work in managing one of our most popular assets. The Beaches Division now forms part of the Department of the Environment. Although I have only been working with this team for 7 short months, I am delighted to welcome this very professional and dedicated group to our environment and heritage family. We have begun work in earnest and are already making changes to the lifeguard service, with our primary responsibility to ensure that people in the community enjoy swimming in a safe environment. This year, the lifeguard induction course was expanded considerably. New resources have been purchased, including observation chairs for all our beaches and the bathing pavilion, as have new RLSS regulation rescue boards to ensure that these individuals have the tools they need to perform their duties efficiently and professionally. We will have a total of 42 lifeguards this summer and a total of 13 accessibility attendants. We will take stock after this year's bathing season and develop an induction manual with an exam to be completed by all future lifeguards. Further to this, beachgoers this year will have the added facility of an extra beach storage unit for public use at Sandy Bay, Eastern Beach and Catalan Bay. This will greatly improve the free storage capabilities already in place at these beaches. Unfortunately, Mr. Speaker, the weather delayed our pre-season works program slightly, but I'm happy to inform this House that all works will be completed within the next few days. Our beaches have suffered greatly this winter as a result of increased storm damage. We have had 10 episodes of adverse weather, which have affected all beaches to varying degrees. 4 of these were severe. The beaches which suffered the most structural damage were Camp Bay and Catalan Bay, with Eastern Beach and Sandy Bay having the highest deposition of marine litter as a result of the storms. In addition, the northern end of Eastern Beach had the added inconvenience of the adjacent tunnel works. This said, the department has worked tirelessly to ensure all repairs were carried out efficiently, and I must also thank our colleagues in the Technical Services Department for their assistance and support in this respect. Catalan Bay in particular has undergone a major renovation, not only in structural repairs, but only in the removal of approximately 3,600 tons of rocks and the deposition of close to 10,000 tons of screen sand as part of the much-needed beach regeneration. The government will now consider, in consultation with residents, how best to protect this beach in the future, as the predicted increase in storm surges will undoubtedly threaten serious detrimental impact on this beach and could threaten the integrity of the sea wall. Mr. Speaker, this year saw the publication of the revised programme of measures on marine surveillance, which has been submitted to the European Commission. The document sets out measures that will help to achieve and maintain good environmental status in British Gibraltar territorial waters and so fulfil the requirements of the Marine Strategy Framework Directive, consistent with the government's commitment to a clean, safe, productive and biologically diverse marine environment. In parallel with this work, and with monitoring of marine litter and marine noise, the department's scientific divers, now formally qualified as such, continue to monitor the progress of our restoration efforts, including the oyster and seagrass regeneration projects. Monitoring invasive seaweed has also become the remit of the department's scientific team, in addition to protection of marine fauna such as cetaceans, sharks and seabirds. The underwater camera continues to be very popular with the general public and is receiving widespread attention from citizens and scientists alike in Germany, USA, UK and other parts of Europe. Mr. Speaker, a salient example of the success of the government's creation of marine conservation zones is Seven Sisters Marine Protected Area. This designation has helped preserve an expanse of natural reef habitat that was becoming increasingly difficult to find in the Bay of Gibraltar. A wide variety of marine life can now be seen flourishing in this area, and evidence suggests that the populations of some fish species, such as breams and groupers, are increasing there. The protected area in the new offshore reef at Sandy Bay is yielding similar results. Mr. Speaker, Gibraltar is now a world leader in protection of sharks, rays and skates, having become one of only 3 countries in the world to provide near-complete protection to these, in a move that has received worldwide attention and the praise of many international organizations and individuals, including UN Patron of the Oceans, Lewis Pugh. According to the latest assessment of sharks in the Mediterranean carried out by the International Council for the Conservation of Nature, at least 53% of the sharks and rays native to the Mediterranean Sea are at risk of extinction and require urgent action to conserve their population. This latest move by the government of Gibraltar will help ensure that British Gibraltar territorial waters are a refuge for these species and is in keeping with the government's wider mandate to become a leader in the application of regional marine protection conventions such as the Barcelona Convention for the Protection of the Mediterranean Sea. Mr. Speaker, government's commitment to the protection of marine resources and fish stocks is undeniable. We are clearly beginning to see the results of our conservation measures, despite the hyperbole associated with foreign fishing vessels. Angling is now licensed, and the problem of dozens of non-resident anglers lining our shores has completely disappeared. The Fishing Working Group continues to meet on a regular basis to discuss the sustainable management of marine resources in our waters. Once again, I want to thank all of its members who give their free time for this vitally important role. As an example of the group's work, a temporary ban on octopus fishing was implemented from the 15th April to 15th May this year, a pioneering measure in the history of marine conservation in Gibraltar. The aim of the ban was to improve breeding success by protecting octopus when they are laying eggs. Similar bans are regularly implemented throughout the Mediterranean, but no previous government of Gibraltar has had the courage and commitment to do this. Other bans targeting vulnerable species and areas over defined periods of time are also being considered by the group, along with reviewing new and additional minimum sizes for fish in BGTW. Mr. Speaker, we're now well into Gibraltar's third bluefin tuna fishing season. This continues to be managed exceptionally well, with officials from the department and the landing point staff monitoring and recording catch data. I cannot emphasize enough the importance of this fisheries work. As the status of our waters within the EU changes with Brexit, it is hugely important that we show the world, which is watching closely, that we are perfectly able to manage our waters environmentally and that our waters are indeed ours to manage. Any relaxation of our efforts at protection, of the seriousness with which we regulate tuna fishing, would be jumped upon by our enemies to make a case against our jurisdictional authority. This is why we will continue in this and other areas of environment to not only keep to EU standards, but to surpass them too. Mr. Speaker, having a dedicated environmental enforcement division has demonstrated to many, including other governments, the EU Commission and the Secretariat of the International Convention on the Conservation of Atlantic Tuna, otherwise known as ICCAT, that Gibraltar is serious about environmental protection. The Environmental Protection and Research Section has been working 365 days a year to ensure that environmental legislation is adhered to. In 2016, the team reported 24 individuals for process in connection with offences against the marine regulations. Dedicated operations targeting specific breaches of the legislation are now occurring. Operation Spearfish, for example, proved extremely successful and has practically resulted in the cessation of the once rife illegal spearfishing activities in BGTW. Ensuring that vessels comply with the cetacean protocol is another important part of the section's remit. Whales and dolphins are fully protected under local and international law, and it is in our best interest to ensure that maritime activity, including the activities of tour operators, are consistent with the conservation objectives of the government. In connection with this, the department is considering designating an area within our waters as a dolphin reserve. The team also carries out an important role when it comes to marine research and wildlife rescue. This year, turtles and numerous birds, including griffon vultures, short-toed eagles and gannets, have been rescued. The release rate is high thanks to the sterling work carried out by the GONS Raptor Unit and the Gibraltar Veterinary Clinic. Moving on to environmental health, the Environmental Agency continues to work and advise me in the areas of nuisance, building control, waste regulation, ship sanitation, coma, food inspections, food input controls, and much else. Work last year included 1,200 inspections to ensure hygiene in food premises and 109 ship sanitation certificates, a relatively new service in our port. The agency services and calibrates our 3 air quality monitoring stations liaising with pollution specialists, and continues to form part of the European network of drinking water regulators. It continues to participate in the EU VectorNet program, which is studying the distribution of the mosquito, tick, sandfly, and other disease vectors. The agency's new website has been launched, providing easier access to users for the dissemination of environmental information, and in the next few weeks, all forms within the website will be available for filling online. The mobile app, Gib Enviro, continues to be improved and provides information to the public on a variety of topics, including bathing waters and recycling. The agency continues to advise the government on all relevant legislation, and currently it is doing sterling work with the Health and Safety Laboratory in the UK as the process of designing and constructing an LNG plant at North Mole proceeds. Mr. Speaker, the state of the North Front Cemetery was a subject of a motion debated in Parliament some months ago. I was very pleased that we were able to come to a consensus during the debate and agree on the final motion. I am conscious that some time has elapsed, but things can take time if we want to get them right. I am more than happy to announce that a contract has been awarded to an experienced contractor for the upkeep and maintenance of the planted areas of the cemetery. Discussions are advanced and work is due to start on the 1st of August. A maintenance program has been prepared by the Department of the Environment in consultation with the Botanic Gardens, who have provided their input pro bono. This will ensure that areas of vegetation are maintained and not allowed to become overgrown and create problems of access to visitors. There will also be a program of planting of shrubs that are attractive and can survive the sometimes harsh conditions of the site. In addition, a bill for an act to replace the current outdated Cemetery Act will be published shortly. All told, the coming financial year will see great improvements to the state of the cemetery, and I am confident that it will finally cease to be a source of embarrassment and consternation. Mr. Speaker, green spaces are a great benefit to our environment, with Commonwealth Park providing what most, even the erstwhile critics on the other side of the House, an essential area for leisure and respite from the stresses of city life, as well as a filter for pollutants. We continue to plant trees wherever possible, and we are seeing that we are victims of our own success. We can't find the places to plant them, as last year's output of 193, although higher than it ever was pre-2012, is considerably less than that reported in previous years. That said, we will continue to explore areas where trees can be planted, and in so doing, increasing habitats for birds and insects within the urban environment, providing shade and removing carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. The Gibraltar Botanic Gardens at the Alameda continue to grow more beautiful and at the same time expand their work on taxonomy, ecology, conservation, and very particularly education. Its partnership with the University of Gibraltar resulted in the university's first Erasmus student, Elizabeth Ulloa Chaura from Chile, doing a 3-month traineeship at the Alameda. April 2016 saw the 200th anniversary of the opening of the gardens, marked with the opening of a tropical glasshouse. The gardens continue to raise their profile as a center of excellence for the study and cultivation of succulents. The garden's curator has hosted visits to Gibraltar from high-profile succulentists, keen to view the Alameda's important work in this field. Other work by the curator has included the exploration of new habitats for cacti in the Caribbean and visiting other botanic gardens to advise on succulent plant curations. The children's education program continues to go from strength to strength, with the garden's education team further improving its links with local schools and capacity to advise and assist these with the development of their own gardens. The International Garden Photographer of the Year is arriving in Gibraltar for the first time next month. This promises to be a world-class outdoor exhibition that will undoubtedly attract considerable attention from residents and tourists visiting the Rock. To mark this occasion, the Department of the Environment and the Gardens have teamed up with the Photographer of the Year to introduce a new award known as Green Gibraltar, details of which will be announced shortly. Mr. Speaker, so much has changed in the Gibraltar Nature Reserve since I came into office in 2011, but it is also true there is still much to do. As part of the government's commitment to improving the value of the Nature Reserve, the department published the Gibraltar Nature Reserve Management Plan as a consultation document in September. The plan contains a wide range of action points for the Upper Rock and other areas of ecological importance that were afforded protected status in 2013. Providing new facilities, improving existing sites, and reintroducing species all form part of the numerous measures included in the consultation document. Many of these are well underway. Perhaps more importantly, Mr. Speaker, building on the success of the consultation process, I will shortly be making major strategic changes to the management of the Gibraltar Nature Reserve. These changes, informed by the draft management plan and by experience in protected areas elsewhere, will come at little financial cost, but will project our nature reserve with all its various types of heritage well beyond our borders. Meanwhile, our day-to-day work continues, with habitat management and creation being carried out at key locations, and a number of initiatives to rewild the reserve. Mr. Speaker, it is fair to say that the collaborative work of the Department and the GONHS has saved the now not-so-secretive Barbary partridge. I remember, Mr. Speaker, when the opposition used to goad me with accusations that I was going to be single-handedly responsible for the extinction of the Barbary partridge. How wrong they were yet again, Mr. Speaker. Our efforts are now focused on more ambitious initiatives. Earlier this year, the department began a project aimed at attracting the osprey, a spectacular fish-eating bird of prey, back to the rock. A successful reintroduction program is currently underway in Cadiz, and the Department of the Environment has recently joined the regional efforts to increase population numbers in consultation with the GONHS as well as regional experts from Andalusia. The installation of artificial nests with decoys is aimed at enticing passing ospreys to stay. Plans to reintroduce other species are also active. We will continue to vigorously pursue our policy of improving the Gibraltar Nature Reserve. The beautification works currently underway at Douglas Path, Mount Misery and Europa Foreshore serve to demonstrate this ongoing commitment, and there is much more to come. Mr. Speaker, tourist sites are another recent and welcome acquisition of my portfolio. Once again, I have acquired an excellent and dedicated team of administrative and staff and site officers whose knowledge and experience in managing a tourist product are invaluable to Gibraltar. The tourist board's past investment in its sites in the Upper Rock, coupled with the transformation of the nature reserve, have all made the difference in upgrading this asset. This year, we will introduce an audio guide system at the World War II tunnels. The feedback received from visitors to Windsor Bridge has been excellent, and I have no doubt that the Skywalk will have similar success. It is due to be completed in a few short weeks and open to the public shortly after as part of a larger renovation project within the Mount Misery area. Other improvements will also soon be seen in the Europa Point area, including new viewing platforms and interpretations. Mr. Speaker, I can report that as a result of the culling programme of the long-term trend in the breeding population of gulls in Gibraltar continues to be one of decline. Despite the limitations in gull control that are imposed when working in an urban environment, surveys show that the urban population now appears to be decreasing as well. Indeed, the number of house calls received and attended by the Avian Control Unit decreased substantially during 2016, and this is most likely as a result of the sustained effort in controlling the gull population in built-up areas as well as elsewhere around the rock. This often difficult and dangerous work, which includes removing nests from tall rooftops, is one of the most valued services that is performed for the public by the Avian Control Unit, and their efforts and dedication deserve to be highlighted. Although the general trend of gulls in Gibraltar is one of decline, a small increase in breeding birds has been detected on the Great East Sand Slopes, where topography makes control using the current methods difficult. Discussions are currently underway to explore other more natural options for controlling nesting gulls on the eastern slopes, including the reintroduction of predators such as the red fox. Mr. Speaker, from the outset, our management of the iconic Barbary macaque has progressed in ways that avoid the need for extensive culls, such as used to be the case in the past. While contraceptive implants have been used for several years now, they are of limited duration and sometimes not 100% effective. As of September last year, the macaque management team, run by the Department of the Environment and which includes the GONS and the Gibraltar Veterinary Clinic, has introduced surgical contraception by way of laparoscopy. The Gibraltar Veterinary Clinic has so far treated 29 macaques from most of the groups, approximately a third of the females of breeding age. It's important to note that the animals that have been contracepted are females which have already had one or more young in past years, so they are not denied the opportunity of becoming mothers. This is crucial in macaque society. The numbers of females sterilized in this way is also limited, so that there will always be some within every group which will bear young. This method will have the long-term effect of stopping population growth while allowing social structures to remain and not threaten the continuation of the Gibraltar macaque population. All this is being monitored by the team in consultation with Professor Agustin Fuentes of Notre Dame University of Indiana, USA, a great friend of Gibraltar and chair of the Macaque Research Panel. As an additional management tool, this year has also seen the start of a program to carry out genetic fingerprinting of the whole macaque population of Gibraltar. Correct management of our Barbary macaques is essential, and not just to reduce the nuisance they can cause in built-up areas. This species is endangered, as reflected in the recent uplisting of the species to Appendix 1 of the Convention on the Illegal Trade in Endangered Species of Wild Fauna and Flora. The uplisted, which was supported by the International Primate Protection League and over which I was consulted in my personal capacity as a macaque conservation biologist, highlights the importance of the species and of Gibraltar as a refuge for this primate which is facing disappearance from its North African habitat. Monkey Talk Gibraltar continues to work closely with the department in all areas of education on the macaques, and I thank Brian Gomila for his energy in promoting responsible enjoyment of our monkeys. Mr. Speaker, I believe it is fair to say that the government has largely resolved the problem of macaques impacting on our built-up areas in a large way, which, as I said repeatedly, would take a few years of patient work. We are in an exciting position where we can now fine-tune our management methods so that all of us can once again start to think of our monkeys in a positive light and as an asset to Gibraltar. Mr. Speaker, the reshuffle also delivered heritage onto my desk. I must start by paying tribute to the excellent work which my predecessor, the Honourable Stephen Linares, carried out until I took over late last year. His exquisite restoration of Wellington Front is but one example of his achievements. Yeah. Mr. Speaker, I am excited at the prospects ahead, particularly in areas where heritage, environment and education, all areas now under my responsibility, can come together. The expanded Department of the Environment, Heritage and Climate Change now includes a heritage division with 3 offices and is therefore more resourced than ever before. It's important that the different stakeholders have available points of contact and support within government, and with this comes a sense of common purpose. Following consultation with stakeholders, a new Heritage and Antiquities Act is in the final stages of preparation and will be published as a bill very soon. This will clearly define the responsibilities that will govern all heritage matters, including an expanded listing of assets in its schedules. The Act will set up a Heritage and Antiquities Commission. I have additionally revived the Heritage Action Committee in a revised format as a smaller outfit of key players who can advise me when quick action is required. It will continue to function as it will complement and not be replaced by the Commission. I am pleased to report to having chaired 2 meetings of HAC so far, and these have proved very useful and productive. The next stage is the development of a heritage management plan, a tool to give effect to the requirements of the Act. The plan will identify those areas of heritage which we regard as important and valued the most. It will also allow developers to have a clear picture of how their proposals might be viewed in the context of heritage, which will be useful for planners. In this way, we will develop a coherent strategy where development and heritage are deconflicted at an early stage. Work has started on a draft, and I will publish the final document after consultations with stakeholders when it is completed. Over the coming year, I will be looking at further ways of managing and improving our heritage. We are blessed with a richness of heritage that is the envy of many, but this brings with it responsibility. Governments cannot tackle so much on its own at once, so we will be looking at ways in which we might attract outside investment. The Moorish Castle is one area that is being looked at after the World Heritage success. Its restoration is something that the Gibraltar Museum, currently the manager of the site, are keen to embark upon, and I am discussing with them ways of achieving this goal in the medium term. Plans will be developed during the course of this financial year. This is the first budget speech after our success on the World Heritage front, so I feel it is essential that we should acknowledge this success without doubt as the most important achievement in Gibraltar's heritage history. I wish to record here the huge contribution made by my colleague, the Honourable Dr. Joseph Garcia, who steered the bid through to its positive conclusion, and once again my predecessor as Minister for Heritage, Stephen Linares. The bid took many years to achieve and hurdles to overcome, and we now look forward to the next chapter in the story. In recognition of the efforts made, I must also thank and credit the countless hours dedicated to this achievement by the team of professionals and support staff within the Gibraltar Museum, led by Clive Finlayson, who helped not only with the research and promotion, but the logistics and refurbishment of the site and its access. I am pleased to announce that the new viewing platforms at Europa Advanced Batteries have now been completed, and that I am currently finalizing plans for their opening. From here, visitors will enjoy magnificent views of the Gorham's Cave complex, the imposing rock itself, and the Strait of Gibraltar and the north coast of Africa beyond. Access to the caves themselves has to be strictly controlled because of the nature of the access and also the sensitivity of the site, so the viewing platform will accommodate a large public. This type of solution, Mr. Speaker, has been applied at other World Heritage sites with similar characteristics, and we will strive to make the site as accessible as possible within its constraints. We have already improved walkways, which means that 2 levels of access down to the caves are now possible. One of these allows close views without affecting the site at all, and will permit us to have more visitors going down to the caves than before, to enjoying the splendor and majesty. We will always be looking at ways, especially involving new technology, of making the site accessible to the widest possible public. While on the subject, I am pleased to report that the Gibraltar Museum will this year be returning to the 2 months of excavation at Gorham's and Vanguard Caves, starting very, very shortly. The Gibraltar Museum recently boasted an attendance close to 2,000 people in their open day. It shows that heritage is very much alive in Gibraltar, and this house needs to be aware of this. The museum has completed a full refurbishment in 2 years. Last year, the Chief Minister opened a new wing on the ground floor, which highlighted the now globally popular Nana and Flint. They have been a remarkable success. This year I was able to complete the circle by opening the brand new wing on the first floor, dedicated to military and social history, with a gallery which is very close to my heart, ornithology. We have a museum worthy of being called our national museum, reflecting the diversity of our history, natural history, and heritage. The dissemination of heritage information at all levels is something that we need to encourage. I am pleased to confirm that steps are being taken in this area with a view of producing a series of publications, some of which will integrate heritage and the environment. The Heritage Division has also participated in other projects of international importance, such as the restoration of the 16th century Franciscan frescoes discovered at the convent. This project emphasizes the importance of collaboration, as it was jointly coordinated and funded by the convent, the Gibraltar Heritage Trust, the Friends of Gibraltar Heritage, and of course the government. Another milestone in the protection of our heritage was the relocation of the old MOD gatehouse at the entrance to the former dockyard. This clearly demonstrates that this government will do everything in its power to preserve our buildings of historic importance. The Gibraltar Heritage Trust enjoys a very good and open relationship with the department. They are firm in their advice, and we welcome this, consulting them on many matters and not just for statutory reasons. We believe in collaboration and common objectives, and we should also include and thank all the volunteers who give of their free time. We value their support. This year also saw the renovation of anchors by volunteer Bart van Thienen of Europa foreshore fame come to fruition, with the deployment at Ocean Village, with a number of others in the pipeline. Looking ahead to the rest of the year, we are consolidating our mobile heritage asset register that will keep track of all our movable heritage, such as cannons, cannonballs, etc. As part of this process, we intend to promote an initiative to encourage the registration of artifacts of heritage value that persons might have in their possession. The intention is that the individual would be allowed to retain the artifact after it has been recorded for posterity. We will also be concentrating on developing plans for the refurbishment and maintenance of the city walls and fortifications, amongst them the northern defences, where, as the Deputy Chief Minister described yesterday, sterling work has been carried out over the past few years. But there is still a lot of work that needs to be done, and many heritage assets that need repair and maintenance, such as the World War II structures in different areas of the Upper Rock, or as I have already mentioned, the old prison compound at the Moorish Castle. These should be seen as opportunities for urban regeneration and new tourist attractions, enhancing walks and bringing these areas to life again. Mr. Speaker, my responsibility for urban renewal is now integrated into my Heritage Division. The Urban Renewal Committee is now meeting and is reviewing legislation that will encourage renewal and protect the urban environment. And I want to thank once again my friends Samantha Sacramento and Paul Van Vang for their contribution to this committee. In this role, I seek to encourage the sort of development that will revitalize our urban areas while protecting their features. I'm therefore pleased to see projects developing, such as at Police Barracks and the Boutique Hotel in the Upper Town. Ways of formally encouraging such schemes are being considered. In collaboration with the Ministry for Culture and the Gibraltar Heritage Trust, we will shortly be launching a new street art initiative to also refresh some of our more drab urban areas. The Garrison Library is another of my new responsibilities, and one that has changed considerably since it was handed over to government in 2011. It is now used on a daily basis by local researchers and students alike who make good use of its collections. The library has been building on its research output with its focus on Gibraltar through key projects, including an ESRC-funded project together with the University of Essex on a major history of Gibraltar, with close to 400 interviews conducted, which will be made available to the public. The government funded the final conference for this project, which was a great success and took place in the Garrison Library in February. Another major project, the Encyclopedia of Migrants, is another example. Working with EU partners, funded by the EU with government support, this has allowed the project to produce an important insight into migrations, including those in Gibraltar, and will culminate in a conference here in Gibraltar this week. Every year, together with the Office of the Deputy Chief Minister, the Garrison Library organizes an international symposium on self-determination, which is now in its 5th edition. Mr. Speaker, as a former member of the Garrison Library Committee many decades ago, I am very excited to build on my new working relationship with the library team with a view to ensuring we're protected for future generations as a rich historical and cultural treasure that it is. I will be working closely with the team to assess ways of making improvements to the library, including increasing its revenue streams. Mr. Speaker, I see the coming year as one of consolidating systems for the protection and management of our rich natural and historical heritage. While this is being done, we will be looking at new, tangible projects where we can begin to make a difference in terms of sight and attract investment. Mr. Speaker, as you have seen, the daily work of the revitalized department goes hand in hand with contributions from other government departments. Using our collaborative ethos, the newly constituted department now works closely with colleagues in town planning, land property services, housing and the technical services department. Preserving our heritage really is a team effort. I repeat, this administration's environmental ethics have always been deep-rooted. From the days that the first GSLP government created a Ministry for the Environment in the 1980s for the first time in Gibraltar, and have never consisted of doing the bare minimum in order to comply with law, whether it be local or international law. Our track record clearly proves this, as there can be no doubt that based on the foundations of decades ago, this GSLP Liberal government has achieved more for the environment than any other in Gibraltar's history. And this is for good reason, Mr. Speaker. Environmental issues are no longer fringe. Environmental stories now regularly make the headlines and not just the cute and cuddly good news stories at the end of a bulletin. For climate change is the greatest threat to the world as we know it. Dare I say, Mr. Speaker, in these difficult days of despicable criminal terrorist attack, that in the medium to long term, climate change is an even bigger threat. These are not my words, Mr. Speaker. Richard Clark, the former National Coordinator for Security and Counterterrorism in the United States, surprised a TV interviewer when he stated just this on the day after the Manchester bombing. If left unchecked, climate change will result in more death and more suffering than the world has experienced in decades. Floods, drought, famine, extinction of crop species, migration en masse will all occur as a result. Is this a world we want to leave our children and grandchildren? Mr. Speaker, we must all play our part. We must live more sustainably. We must reduce our consumption of electricity and power, our use of plastics, and our reliance on meat products as food. Apart from environmental sense, it makes financial sense too. Mr. Speaker, these are not examples of Kellyanne Conway's famed alternative facts. Each and every one of us has a duty to move firmly towards functioning sustainably. And as representatives of the people, for us, this is especially relevant. As the great US equal rights campaigner John Lewis once said, Mr. Speaker, if not us, then who? If not now, then when? Mr. Speaker, as this House is aware, the University of Gibraltar is an independent entity. But I would not be doing it justice if I were not to mention at least some of the achievements of the past year and plans for the coming one. Mr. Speaker, I will quote from a letter I received recently from Professor Christina Slade, Interim Chair of the Academic Board. And I quote, "As Chair of the Academic Board of the University of Gibraltar, I am writing with the support of the Board to commend the work of the Executive over the past 18 months and to congratulate Her Majesty's Government of Gibraltar for their initiative. The complex policy frameworks necessary for a university are in place, including quality assurance, academic governance, and higher degree and research procedures. In the first 18 months, there have been 278 students, 45% higher than expected, in 19 courses. 13 nationalities are represented. The university is now recognized by and has associate membership of such major bodies as the Universities UK and the Association of Commonwealth Universities." End of quote. Mr. Speaker, highlights over the past year have included the launch of the Commonwealth Scholarship, funded by the government, the doctoral program, establishment of key advisory groups, establishment of professional certificates of competence, and developing of external sources of income. The university has ambitious plans, which include the construction of student accommodation, a new language centre and business school, and in collaboration with the Department of Education, the offering of a Gibraltar custom-made postgraduate certificate in education. I would like to commend the Board and the Vice-Chancellor for their work in driving the university forward with such commitment. Mr. Speaker, this is, of course, my first budget speech as Minister for Education, and I want to thank my predecessor, my colleague, the Honourable Gilbert Likudi, for his great work in this area. It was from him that I inherited 2 new schools and the university, and also a most professional department that functions extremely efficiently and well. I am also happy to say that now as then, education remains a top priority for the government. Indeed, the last financial year has seen substantial change and exciting developments. As we look to the future, I am extremely confident in our ability to build on what we have already achieved, delivering on a change program that will allow our youth to develop as citizens in an ever-changing world, ready to make an important contribution to Gibraltar's future and beyond. Investment in education is what ultimately should allow Gibraltar to thrive as we face the challenges that will invariably be thrust upon us. As my friend the Chief Minister mentioned yesterday, government's commitment towards higher education is unparalleled. Financial year 16-17 saw 318 mandatory undergraduate scholarships, 169 postgraduate scholarships, and 28 discretionary awards. This amounts to a total of 515 new scholarships, a year-on increase of 89 awards. The number of students who have benefited from higher education during 15-16 amounted to over 1,000, 1,038 to be exact. Moreover, further opportunities for personal development continue to be accessible through distance learning courses and the highly successful Washington Internship Program, which has now run consecutively for 4 academic years and has provided a total of 79 graduates with unrivaled professional experience and knowledge through select work placements. The proficiency of the public service has a direct impact on all the community, and as such it is imperative to ensure that personnel receive continuous professional development and statutory training to deliver an effective service. An investment of £500,000 was allocated for this specific purpose and has, to name a few, provided specialised essential courses in the fields of financial services and gambling and gaming, tax, archives, maritime law, economic development, technical services, and town planning. Professional development continues to be promoted through management and leadership courses, teacher training programs, and accountancy. The private sector has also benefited from over £150,000 of central training funds, and while accountancy and maritime operations continue to be the primary courses in demand, it has also promoted other sectors such as the Gibraltar Dental Association with dental nursing diplomas for nurses practicing in this field. The Student Support Homework Club has been a resounding success and provides the ideal setup and environment for students to study after school hours. The financial year also saw the launch of the new Project Search. This has been set up specifically to assist school leavers with special educational needs to identify apposite employment and support the transition. The Minor Works Programme for financial year 16-17 included external and internal refurbishment works and was designed to complement government's plans for the redevelopment of various schools under the umbrella of education, and primarily, but not exclusively, targeted schools that are not earmarked for redevelopment. These included the continuation of the Design and Technology Workshop overhaul at Bayside and works to improve accessibility at Westside School, which included constructing an extension to create extra classroom space for the Learning Support Unit, the installation of a lift to access first-floor specialist rooms, and the rendering of the external facade. Additionally, the Gibraltar College has gained an extra ICT suite and the replacement of windows to improve ventilation. Rendering and painting works to the external and internal facade of St. Joseph's First and Middle Schools were completed, thus extending the life cycle and heritage value of this historical building and providing a much-needed facelift. The reception lobby shared by both schools was redesigned to improve security and control access. An elevated first-floor extension was constructed in St. Mary's School to provide an assembly indoor activity facility large enough to host the entire pupil population, and a full double glazing window replacement was undertaken in all communal corridors to improve ventilation and building insulation. Works at St. Paul's School included repairs to part of the external facade, the refurbishment of the student library, and removal of time-worn skylights with modifications to the roof structure and tile covering to improve building insulation. Structural works were undertaken at St. Bernard's Nursery to address water ingress and preserve the value of this old building. The window replacement program was sensitively undertaken to optimize the use of natural lighting while observing its unique heritage. The final stage of window replacement program at Bleak House, another heritage building, was completed, and all obsolete air conditioning units were replaced to comply with EU regulations. We are now about to embark on the works program for 2017-18. This will include redesigning the reception and lobby entrances to both secondary schools and relocating the school secretary's offices to augment student safety and monitor access. CTV will be installed strictly around the school perimeters. Some essential works will be carried out at Bayside and Westside, primarily to ensure compliance with health and safety standards and to make certain that the premises are fit for purpose and the school continues to operate effectively until new premises are delivered. Works listed for the Gibraltar College include reconfiguring the Resource Centre. The John Mackintosh Hall Annex building will benefit from a much-needed sports hall window replacement and overhead doorway canopies to protect students and the building facade from inclement weather. The renovation of St. Joseph's Middle and First Schools will continue onto the last stage of the external program. The refurbishment of the band room, housing the music suite of St. Joseph's Middle School, and will commence the first stage of the internal refurbishment program, that is, all top-floor classrooms, corridors, and stairwells and offices. In addition, the linoleum replacement schedule will also be continued, and an extra area of canopy roofing will be installed in the playground of St. Joseph's First to provide shelter for the little ones. In the same vein, it's also sensible to continue investing in the preservation and expansion of St. Mary's School building to meet the increasing demand of preschooling and growth in pupil population. This will entail part re-roofing to address rainwater ingress, building a ground-level extension and covered play area to relocate the nursery area and enable additional classroom space, and structural works to ensure the integrity of ground-level flooring. A survey of the drainage system servicing the school and surrounding elevated areas is currently taking place to identify an effective method of rerouting the excessive volume of storm water that can collect in the area to prevent further damage to school building and property during torrential rain. Works earmarked for the Hebrew Primary School include repairs to flooring, the refurbishment of the lobby area, and the refurbishment of the assembly hall. Barrelbeck Nursery has historical issues with humidity and water ingress, so the extension that serves as the reception lobby entrance will be renovated. Additionally, additional temporary classroom and toilet facilities will be made available at St. Martin's School to absorb the increase in pupil numbers expected in September 2017. Plans for St. Paul's School include the refurbishment of the preschool nursery facilities, the installation of a ramp at the school's main entrance to improve accessibility, damp-proofing and redecorating works to a number of areas, and rerouting of storm water drainage. Mr. Speaker, on matters relating to special educational needs, it's crucially important to note that the rise in number of children requiring additional support is remarkable. Teachers and learning support assistants have therefore received further training in special needs in order to deliver the best provision possible. All 6 special educational needs coordinators, known as SENCOs, successfully completed the National SENCO Award course. There have been organized talks on Tourette's and autism from visiting speakers attended by teachers and learning support assistants, and a number of teachers have travelled to conferences in the UK with the aim of increasing their knowledge and then sharing good practice with other members of the profession. Furthermore, workshops have also been organised on different areas relating to special educational needs. The secondary sector continues to develop more vocational courses through ASDAN, the Award Scheme Development and Accreditation Network, supporting children who perhaps cannot cope with the demands of the GCSEs. This gives them an alternative pathway and an opportunity to showcase their knowledge and skills. Last year, a number of teachers completed the Dignified Care and Responsibility Train the Trainer course. This year, these teachers have delivered the course to a number of schools and will continue to do this next academic year until all schools have been covered. Our teachers and support staff needs to know and indeed feel reassured that their safety and that of the pupils under their care is paramount. On assessment of pupil learning, a change to the national curriculum and the assessments of pupils with the removal of levels has necessitated engagement in collaborative work with schools, subject leaders and experts in the UK. Formative assessment refers to the part of everyday teaching and learning that enables a pupil to build on their learning. Summative assessment gives information on a pupil's overall performance at a specific point in their learning. Both are considered crucial in order to guarantee that all children reach their maximum potential. We have therefore invested a considerable amount of time and effort in order to address these changes and come up with viable mechanisms to guarantee success. Teachers can and do make a tremendous difference in the lives of the young people under their tuition and in their care, and as such can impact on the well-being of the children and their families. Just as the reverse is true, so also the right teacher at the right time can define a child's well-being and ability to fulfill his or her potential. In fact, quality assurance is high on our agenda. This year, we successfully launched a revised Code of Practice for Teachers in partnership with the Gibraltar Teachers Association. The main aim is for teachers to be well informed of what is expected of them as teachers. It affords us the tools to celebrate good practice and challenge underperformance when this happens. The safety net of the code gives us a procedure when to trigger disciplinary, capability and grievance procedures should this be necessary. We will also be developing and enforcing a zero-tolerance policy to ensure the profession is treated with respect and that teachers can go about their duties with confidence that they are fully supported. We also have plans in partnership with the University of Gibraltar, which I briefly mentioned earlier, to produce a bespoke postgraduate certificate in education, offering a single pathway into teaching and making us the gatekeepers, assuring the quality of the product. This should enable us to have more of a say in terms of recruiting the best teachers possible, using our schools as teaching practice schools, monitoring student teachers at all times, and guiding them through the process. Mr. Speaker, a post of Assistant Education Advisor has been regraded to Full Advisor, and the roles of education advisors have been redefined to reflect our emerging needs. Areas such as child welfare, staff management, and curriculum development with quantitative and qualitative quality assurance will now be in the responsibility of the successful applicants who will be imposed by 1st September this year. We will also be moving in all areas relating to leading through technology in education. The focus on improving interactivity through technology and how to make this more effective in teaching and learning continues to be the main driving force of the use of technology in our schools. The initiative centers predominantly around access to handheld devices for teachers and pupils. Training on how to operate within this platform has been provided through an Apple educator offering in-services and online access to teachers. What began 2 years ago as a project pioneered at St. Bernard's Middle School has been laid out to other schools to varying degrees. Governor's Meadow First School and St. Martin's Special School in particular have received equipment and training that has allowed them to make significant headway in using these technologies. The planning stages to equip and train staff at St. Mary's First School, St. Joseph's First School and Middle School are already arranged and set for the coming academic year. As well as this, all other schools continue to develop this initiative within certain year groups and classes, and it's expected that the full program will be rolled out in stages to all schools. The technical infrastructure of schools is a key factor in the successful development of this program. It relies on robust and secure access to the internet. This will be provided in all schools this year, whether or not they form part of the New Schools project. The Department of Education has worked in conjunction with the Consumer Trust, University College London and the University of Gibraltar to provide training in programming and coding for teachers. The course was taught by lecturers from UCL's Faculty of Computer Science. The Department of Education continues to develop and formalize an initiative started by my predecessor to consolidate Gibraltar studies. Much progress has been made initially at first and middle school level, and we will see important developments during the coming academic year. A substantial amount of work has been carried out in relation to child protection and safeguarding. The Tier 2 safeguarding course has now been revamped in line with the Signs of Safety model, and 4 of the designated officers from different schools have attended this. The rest will be completing it in October. From October, 86 teachers plus learning support assistants have completed the Tier 1 safeguarding course. Plans are well underway to ensure that more teachers receive this training throughout the next academic year. We are currently reviewing and assessing all our procedures in relation to child protection, revising our policies, training and retraining teachers, offering in-service provision, sending teachers on conferences abroad, working closely with the Royal Gibraltar Police, Care Agency and the Youth Service. We take these matters very seriously and will leave no stone unturned in order to guarantee the protection of children at all times. Recent work on sexting presentation produced in partnership with other agencies and aimed at parents is testament to this commitment. The addition of an auxiliary role to the team of educational psychologists, or EPs, has allowed our existing EPs to engage in more in-depth complex work with a rising number of special educational needs pupils. The assistant, a fully integrated member of the team, completed a joint council qualification, approved certificate in psychometric testing and assessment and access arrangements, which allowed her to cover all academic assessments, thus helping with the transition and exam access reviews. This year, the team of psychologists additionally benefited from the support of an intern from the University of Louisiana. Plans are already underway to continue to afford other interns the opportunity of accumulating the necessary hours required in a professional setting and to take advantage of this in order to help and support our schools. The team of psychologists also continue to deliver on their drop-in evening clinics aimed at parents and carers who have concerns about the children's learning, development or behavior. Mr. Speaker, child and adolescent mental health is a subject of great concern. I co-chair the CAMS committee with my colleague, the Minister for Health and Care, and we will this year be making recommendations on ways to improve provision and to support the professionals, including the teachers, so often in the front line in helping young people with mental health concerns. The recently launched language school at the Gibraltar College continues to attract attention. There are currently 118 pupils enrolled, 95 reading Spanish and 23 French across different age ranges, starting at the early age of 6. The value of this initiative is more than significant. Bilingualism is part of Gibraltar's very being. Research points that bilingualism, giving both an educational advantage to children and delaying the onset of dementia in the elderly by at least 5 years. We will not let bilingualism die. Not only are we investing in the language school, but I am also commencing a dialogue with the department and head teachers to study ways of actively encouraging bilingualism day to day through our schools. Mr. Speaker, changes are afoot in the way that we teach our children, and there are many more changes to come. This will include a review of holiday periods and term lengths, and of the provision of subjects such as religious education, languages, and music. One thing that will certainly not change is the commitment to charity work. Throughout the academic year, schools have served the community of which they are an integral part tremendously. Numerous charities have been supported, thousands of pounds raised, countless hours invested in order to support those in need. Worthy of mention is the Holding Hands initiative held at Bayside, Standing Strong Against Domestic Violence, and indeed the Mental Health Awareness Week organised by Westside. We also continue to work in partnership with the Kusuma Trust, and we are extremely grateful for their ongoing support every year in events such as the British Science Museum Outreach Programme and Maths Week, the ever-popular University Talks and Interview Techniques session, or indeed the excellent Students for Top Universities, continue to be fully funded by the Trust. Additionally, once again this year, their FireTech coding initiative has been immensely valuable in showing young children how to code. Mr. Speaker, it has been an absolute privilege to have worked for the past 8 months in education. I have loved every minute. I have met and met again so many people, teachers, support staff, admin staff, and of course the students themselves. In my visits to every school and college, I have learned so much and realized so many things. We have a tremendous wealth of talent and absolute dedication to education and to our young people. I have seen that our education system is working well, but that there is also huge untapped potential. I have every intention of tapping it and making it flow. The 1974 Education and Training Act is absolutely out of date. Together with education professionals, I am working on a thorough review of the Act, which I will be bringing to the House before the year is out. I will be reactivating the Advisory Council on Religious Education and reviewing its composition and function in keeping with Gibraltar's diverse society. Mr. Speaker, in the context of widening the ambit of education, I would like to highlight and thank the board and sponsors of the Young Enterprise Initiative, and of course those participating students and the teachers. Year in, year out, our young people excel in the work that they produce and gain skills outside the classroom which will serve them well later in life. Because education spills over into culture and the services offered by the youth service and youth associations, and by dance, music, and performing arts academies and groups, I work very closely with my colleague, the Minister for Culture and Youth, Stephen Linares, in building bridges between us all. Mr. Speaker, as the Chief Minister announced in his speech on opening this debate, the recommendations of the Working Party on co-education have been accepted by government. The Working Party believes that education should be much wider than the purely academic, and the educational environment should reflect reality as it is. That is to say, males and females going about their lives, socially and at work, side by side. It should nurture in children, from the very onset and throughout their schooling, belief in the self-evident fact that although not the same, men and women are equal. This should also help them develop social skills with ease as they interact with members of the other gender on a daily basis under the supervision of their teachers. The deliberations, discussions, and research led to the conclusion that a smooth transition from single gender to co-educational structures should see both social and educational benefits from a school environment that is more attuned to society than the monogender model, which for a range of historical and other reasons reflects past and not contemporary societies and their values. The interpretation of education goes clearly beyond schools as mere examination factories obsessed with examination results. Education is an open-ended process which works largely through conversation, example, and relationships. It must be dialogical rather than just curricular. Schools should endeavor to aim at forming and educating the whole person in the belief that all persons should have an equal chance to share in the life of the community and the wider world. Education should lead children to seek and uphold the truth, to be critical and to be able to discriminate positively, to be respectful of others and of the environment. It should encourage interaction with others to arrive at informed, committed action. It is an ongoing cognitive, emotional, and social process, a process of living in which the end is not the important factor, but the process itself. The Working Party, therefore, firmly believes that a co-education setting is the best way of achieving this vision of education. Government will therefore fully take on board these recommendations. The changes envisaged for the better are substantial, as we will be taking this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to reform education further. Once again, the Chief Minister referred to some of these. In our proposals, all first schools take on children from preschool to year 2, substantially increasing nursery provision and therefore operating the same system of catchment areas for nurseries as we do for schools, thereby eliminating the need to allocate places after assessing the individual needs of respective families. High attainment in first school should correlate with attendance at government nursery. Furthermore, an additional and important advantage is that children move to middle school at the end of Key Stage 1. The formal assessment opportunities and quality assurance mechanisms are therefore improved as a direct result of this. Middle schools remain of similar size, taking children from year 3 to year 6, setting up a smooth transfer at the exit phase of Key Stage 2, with all the pertinent formal assessments completed across all our middle schools in line with what happens in England and Wales. This arrangement once again makes it easier to quality assure and track the journey of children. We place a very strong emphasis on added value. Schools must ensure that all children develop their true potential. We therefore need the assessment structured in place to ensure that we can confidently measure this. This arrangement is expected to create a more standard entry into secondary education. Students then would commence their secondary schooling at Bayside and Westside at the start of Key Stage 3 at the beginning of Year 7, with both schools operating on a co-educational basis. With GCSE getting harder, it's important to have specialization from Year 7. A totally new Bayside and Westside school will be built and would accommodate the changes. Post-16 provision will operate completely under a consortium arrangement jointly administered by the two respective head teachers of Bayside and Westside and the principal of the Gibraltar College, with the college additionally providing a completely revamped vocational framework. The Gibraltar College will continue to deliver on adult education and professional courses, with a recently established language school for children expanded to include Mandarin and computer programming, and the teacher of English as a foreign language enhanced. Vocational pathways will also be introduced at an earlier stage in the new Bayside and Westside, at the exit of Key Stage 3, to include structured outreach work experience programs. This fills a big gap in our current education setup. Mr. Speaker, I wish to thank all the members of the Working Group on Co-education for the professional way in which they have tackled their task. I recall, Mr. Speaker, that the opposition chided the government with revealing the names of the members of the group, implying that this did not in fact exist, despite my predecessor having clearly stated that the group had indeed been informed. I am proud to name them all again by way of thanking them for the important task that they have performed. They are Michelle Barabish, head teacher of Westside, Michael Tavares, head teacher of Bayside, Kenneth Saez, head teacher of St. Bernard's Middle, Dimna Holmes, the SEO of the Department of Education, Stuart Borastero, the president of the Gibraltar Teachers Association, Angelique Linares, a parent, Stephen Reyes, a parent, and of course Darren Gregg, accomplished swimmer and acting director of education, who pulled it all together and makes such a tremendous contribution to education day in and day out. Many professionals, groups and members of the public made valuable representations to the working group, and I thank them all for this. Every single representation was given full consideration. Mr. Speaker, as the Chief Minister also proudly announced, government will also build a new St. Martin's School, Notre Dame School, St. Anne's School, Governor's Meadows School, Bishop Fitzgerald School, Bayside and Westside. Already a strong and dedicated team is hard at work in preparing these ambitious but perfectly achievable projects, which will be carried out avoiding disruption to the students. The details concerning all of these will shortly be announced. As you can imagine, it will involve careful planning to execute, and stakeholders, especially the teaching profession, will be fully and intimately involved in planning and rolling out these changes. Indeed, Mr. Speaker, I intend to create a number of focused working groups to guide us through the details of the changes and the proposals announced today in order to ensure that our children and our children's children reap the benefits of these exciting times. One important aim is the increased involvement of teachers outside the immediate remit of their schools and classrooms. There cannot be any distance between the department and the schools. Teachers, especially heads and deputies, have a tremendous part to play in progressing education, and they must play a larger part in this at departmental level. Mr. Speaker, the perception of education is changing. It is much more than exams and much more than schools. It is how society prepares its children and youth to take their place in our beloved community. Today we have seen that huge steps are being taken to take this forward. Mr. Speaker, over the past 8 months or so, I have visited all the schools, most on more than one occasion. Most recently, over the past few weeks, I have been to the comprehensive schools to see the students sitting some of their major examination with great discipline and commitment. In a couple of months' time, we will all be taking pride in the exam results of our students. I will be the first there to congratulate them. But at the same time, I will be thinking of all those young people of the same age who did not do so well or did not take these exams because their abilities or their interests are in other areas for which we do not currently provide in the right way or at the right time. Education, said William Yeats, education is not the filling of a pail, but the lighting of a fire. We will light that fire in each and every one of our young people, regardless of their interests, weaknesses, or strengths. To end, Mr. Speaker, I would like to thank all of the staff of the departments, schools and colleges, the university, authorities, agencies, companies and contractors, too many to mention by name, who work in any and all of my areas of responsibility for their contribution to making Gibraltar work. I want to thank all students, from the very youngest to those in higher education, and especially the parents for the interest they show in our schools and education system. I want to thank the volunteers, from those who work on projects to those who serve on committees or boards without payment and without any expectation of recognition or reward. I want to thank the associations and societies with an interest in my areas of responsibility for meeting with me and pushing their subjects responsibly and with commitment. I want to thank the 3 unions with which I now work closely, the Gibraltar Teachers Association, Unite and the GGCA. I would like to thank all those with the courtesy to invite me to functions, performances and events, and to apologize for those which I cannot attend, usually due to work commitments. I want to thank my CEOs, directors and other senior staff for putting up with my passion and with my wish to relentlessly progress our agendas and our manifesto. I would like to thank you, Mr. Speaker, and the staff of our Parliament, and of course my small but dedicated and loyal personal staff for their support, professionalism and friendship. And I would like to thank my family for understanding that I sometimes cannot be with them when I would really want to. Finally, Mr. Speaker, I would like to thank the people who make my job worth doing, the people of Gibraltar. I was put here by them, I work for them, I do it for them, they make it worthwhile.